Welcome to the Faith Talks Wood podcast. I'm Will from Flatwood Acres.
I'm Tom from Mountain Valley Maker.
And we're podcast talks about a little bit of everything. Tom, it's only been a couple of days since we talked last.
Yeah. Last week was wacky.
Yeah, it was. And so for those of you guys listening, so last week's podcast was 2 days ago for Tom and I. We record on Saturday. Normally record on Mondays. We couldn't. And so today is Monday night, and we're recording again. But I do have some stuff to talk about as far as the shop talk is concerned, because I did have to use some tools and do some makeshift stuff outside in the blowing cold snow. But we'll talk about that later. How have you been the last couple of days?
Oh, been good, man. Just get stuff done. We had a ton of rain start last night, so I was trying to get the grass cut, get the winterized seed out, and all kind of stuff before the rain came in. And rain down here, but snow up on the mesa. So Powderhorn, where we snowboard, got a ton of snow last night, and snow's expected all week long up there. So, yeah, man, it's coming. Excited.
There you go. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, we haven't gotten any snow since last week here. It had sputtered and spittered a little bit of snow, but yeah, it's definitely getting to be that season pretty soon. I just saw, my wife sent me a screenshot today. I'm off of all social media, but there's this Pennsylvania weather Facebook page that we both followed, and she sent me a screenshot, and they're estimating that our area where we live at, we get 160 plus inches of snow this year.
Oh, you lucky dog.
You say that, but last year we had, almost that. And so yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I don't know when it's going to start. Last year, the day after Thanksgiving, we got 36 inches of snow in one day.
Man. What I would give for that.
Yeah. But anywho, it's coming, and yeah, looking forward to it. I mean, dude, can you believe Thanksgiving is just like 2 weeks away?
Oh, I know. And I got so much to do before then. So
awesome.
Crazy.
Well, before we get into it, I just want to say thank you to Patreon supporters. We appreciate you guys. And if you want to support us over on Patreon, you can do so. Patreon.com/Faith Talks Wood. And last week we were Colossians 2. This week we are Colossians chapter 3. Almost to the end of the book here. I'll be honest with you, Tom. I forgot we were so close from last time we recording. I hadn't got a chance to read Colossians because I'm reading in 1 Corinthians and Romans right now in my daily reading. So I was like, oh, it's podcast. So anyways, we're going to go through this together.
Oh, man. Well, I've already read it.
I mean, I've read Colossians 3, but I just haven't for.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, it's. I know this is one of your favorite chapters, and I love it as well. So, all right, I'm in the NLT, and starting there in verse 1, living the new life. Since you have been raised to new life with Christ, set your sights on the realities of heaven, where Christ sits in the place of honor at God's right hand. Think about the things of heaven, not the things of earth. For you died to this life, and your real life is hidden with Christ in God. And when Christ, who is your life, is revealed to the whole world, you will share in all his glory. So put to death the sinful earthly things lurking with you. Have nothing to do with sexual immorality, impurity, lust, and evil desires. Don't be greedy, or a greedy person is an idolater, worshiping the things of the world. Because of these sins, the anger of God is coming. You used to do these things when your life was still part of this world, but now is the time to get rid of anger, rage, malicious behavior, slander, and dirty language. Don't lie to each other, for you have stripped off your old sinful nature and all its wicked deeds. Put on your new nature and be renewed as you learn to know your Creator and become like Him. In this new life, it doesn't matter if you are a Jew or a Gentile, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbaric, uncivilized, slave, or free. Christ is all that matters, and he lives in all of us. Since God chose you to be the holy people he loves, you must clothe yourselves with tender-hearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Make allowance for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offends you. Remember that the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. Above all, clothe yourselves with love, which binds us all together in perfect harmony, and let the peace that comes from Christ rule in your hearts. For as members of one body, you are called to live in peace and always be thankful. Let the message about Christ in all its richness fill your lives. Teach and counsel each other with all the wisdom he gives. Sing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs to God with thankful hearts. And whatever you do or say, do it as a representative of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks through him to God the Father. So there's a lot to unpack in here, but I want to touch on three things that just really, really pop out. First of all, right there in the beginning, since you have a new life with Christ, set your sights on the reality of heaven where Christ is. Think about the things of heaven and not the things of earth. So one thing, when I think about setting your sight on something, it really reminds me of bicycling, riding a motorcycle, riding a snowboard. So when you're riding a mountain bike and you're going into a curve or wherever you're at, but particularly in a curve, if you set your sight through the curve, you'll go right through it with the greatest of ease. But if you set your eyes on the ground, you are so much more likely to wreck. And so, same thing with snowboarding. Whichever way you look, and when you look, it rotates your shoulders and your torso, and you will go that direction. And it's the same thing with our lives. So what are we focusing on and looking at? So we're going to set our sights on God and the things of God, which it goes on to talk about, and talks about getting rid of the anger and the rage and the malicious behavior and slander and dirty language. So not blending into the world. The other night, I played in a pool tournament, and surrounded by some different people that were just cussing like sailors, hurt them off and take the Lord's name in vain. And but then there were other people like myself that had clean language, and there's a few other Christians that play pool as well. And remember, we're supposed to be the light in the darkness. And so if you blend in to the world and are using that foul language or talking about things that you shouldn't be talking about or watching things you shouldn't be watching, then you're not standing out as a light in the dark place. And tells us I love how it talks about learn to know your Creator and become like Him. And so really studying this word, learning the characteristics of Jesus and striving to be like that. Are you going to wake up tomorrow and be perfect like Jesus? No, you're not. But we could strive, and if we keep our eyes on those things to become like Him, it's going to keep us away naturally from those things of the world. And then the other thing that really, really stands out is down there at the end. 3:17 is one of my favorite verses. One of the first ones I memorized. It says, "Whatever you do, do it as a representative of the Lord Jesus Christ, giving thanks through Him, God the Father." So whatever we do, and we memorize this when I coach soccer, and it's whatever we do. So whether we are on the field playing the game of soccer, whether we're in the classroom as a student, as a parent, standing on the sidelines, or at work, or whatever it is we're doing, if we're in our shop woodworking, if we're out installing a set of cabinets we built, wherever it is we're at, whatever we do, we're to glorify the Father and give thanks through Him. And so, yeah, man, what stands out to you in that section, Will?
Like you said, I mean, there's so many things here to unpack, and you know, when I think of set your sights on, being somebody who I don't as much anymore because it's gotten expensive, but I used to enjoy shooting guns a lot, like target shooting, like doing some longer range stuff. And when you put your sights, if you're a hunter, you put your sights on the deer or whatever. Um, you're looking down range, and you're looking at that and not anything else, right? Through that scope, all you're seeing is the target. And what Paul is saying here is that we need to, since you've been raised to a new life with Christ, you need to set your sights on the realities of heaven. That means all this earthly crap, all of the temptation that we have, uh, that we need to have blinders onto that. We need to focus on the things of heaven. And it's, crucially important, especially now with all the distractions, social media, and, porn at the ease of your fingertips, and all the different things, all the things that are striving for your attention. We need to focus on the things of heaven, and make sure that that is our main focus and nothing else. Um, and then verse 10, it says, "Put on your new nature and be renewed as you learn to know your Creator and become like Him." Um, be every time I hear the word renew, I think of Romans 12, right? By the renewing of your mind. That's the idea of, you were here and now you're there. You need to change, um, and be renewed, right? To put on this new garment that you've been given. And then one of the other things, where's it at? Where's that? Verse 16, let the message about Christ and all its richness fill your lives. The riches of Christ is way more valuable than the riches of this world. Being able to walk in the newness of life with Christ and having His daily mercies upon us is more valuable than any stock market or thing that you can obtain in this world. I think it's important for us to remember that, and know that with Christ, we are fulfilled in everything that we need. And so it's good
Amen.
stuff.
Oh, it is. All right, I'll continue on down there in the last section of this chapter, verse 18. Instructions for Christian households. So this is really, it's a short section, but so powerful for families. 8 and 18, wives, submit to your husbands as fitting for those who belong to the Lord. Husbands, love your wives and never treat them harshly. Children, always obey your parents, for this pleases the Lord. Fathers, do not aggravate your children, or they will become discouraged. Slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything you do. Try to please them all the time, not just when they are watching you. Serve them sincerely because of your reverent fear of the Lord. Work willingly at whatever you do, as though you were working for the Lord rather than for people. Remember that the Lord will give you an inheritance as your reward, and that the masters you are serving is Christ. But if you do what is wrong, you will be paid back for the wrong you have done, for God has no favorites. So, first off, wives, submit to your husband. I know we don't have a large percentage of our audience as being women, but I know there are a handful of you listening. And I think when we hear this word submit, it means that often sounds like you're going to become a slave for your husband, and that's not what submitting means. That means to honor him as the head of the household and the position that God has put him in. But remember, husbands, it then says, husbands, love your wives and never treat them harshly. So God created us differently and created us with different roles. But remember, he said, come together, leave your families and come together as one, and let nothing that God joined together be separated. So you are one with different roles. And there's got to be a love and a respect for the other, husbands for wives, wives for husbands, and what their role of the marriage is. Children, obey your parents. And I'm going to say this, even as adults, we should still obey our parents and honor them and be respectful. That doesn't stop when we're kids. Obviously, we're making our own household decisions and stuff. And but if we're in there, we go to visit them in their house. We honor them in their house and love them and respect them. And I find that interesting in 21, where it talks about do not aggravate your children. And so there's a proverb that says, raise them up in the way they should go. When they are old, they will not depart from it. So yelling, screaming at your kids is not going to raise them up to be loving, compassionate people. Does it mean you should never, if your kid's about to put their hand on the hot stove, yell at them? I mean, there is a time and place for a scream, but yelling and screaming and anger for every little thing is not the way to raise a child. We're supposed to do it with love and compassion, so that, and it goes on, or they will become discouraged. And the last thing we want to do is discourage them. We want to build them up. Now, obviously, nobody listening to this podcast has a slave today, and praise God for that. But I do find one verse there, and so often we kind of feel like we're slaves to our jobs. So if you're not self-employed, you might have a boss at work and feel like you're, certainly it is not slavery, because you can leave the job, whereas slaves in the old days did not have that option. But it says, work willingly at whatever you do, as though you were working for the Lord rather than for people. And that applies to whether you're an IT manager at a bank, whether you're a sign installer like me, or you're a nurse at a hospital, or wherever it is. Whatever we do it to the best of your ability, like 3:17 says. And sometimes you might have a boss and you have to take some, be a little humble and take some instructions you might not like. But remember, we're there working for the Lord. We're not working for that boss as people here on earth that are striving to be with the Lord. And remember, I love that very last section. For God has no favorites. And it may seem sometime like other Christians are get higher paid jobs, and you often hear them say, "Oh, the Lord's so blessed me." Quite often, you might get to thinking, it's like, why has the Lord blessed me like that? Is Will more his favorite? Will makes more money than I do, because IT pays more in the world than what sign makers make. Guess what? Doctors make more than nurses in the world. That is a worldly thing, what we get paid. Now, I'm not saying that God doesn't put us in position and bless us financially. I'm not saying that. But I think he gives us different skill sets and puts us in different things. If I had to work in IT at a bank, I'd probably go home and hang myself from a tree, because I'd be so miserable. I'm not wired that way. Like, I could not do what you do for a living, Will. It would drive me bonkers. Like, I would hate every last minute of it. I am more of a working with my hands type of person, and we all have different skills. So remember, whatever it is God has given you, that skill set, it might not pay what your friend makes in his skill set, But remember, we're supposed to be content with what we have and then use whatever we have to bring honor and glory to God. And He has no favorites. Remember, our reward is in heaven. It's not here on earth. And it says that he who has been given little and done well with it will be given more. And so whatever it is you have, do it to the best of your ability, skill set wise, monetary wise, whatever it is, and then do it for the Lord. And in heaven, there's going to be a reward for what we do here. So, yeah, man, short little section there, Will, but what do you gather from it?
Yeah, there's a lot to break down there. And for what it's worth, weeks like this week, I don't like my job either. we have auditors in all week, so I'm sitting in meetings answering questions all week.
I had to turn in my resignation on Monday.
Yeah. So, but yeah, there's a lot here in this section. The one thing, and you touched on it, is it says, "Wives, submit to your husbands as fitting to those who belong to the Lord." So we're gonna do a little Greek here. There's a couple of things here that I wanna break down. The word submit in Greek is a word hupotasso. That is it's a verb that is basically like a military term for getting in line. So you're a military guy. So it's the idea of there's somebody taking the charge ahead of you, and they're doing it for your good, and they're doing it to protect you, and you get behind them because they're the ones that are going to take things head on, if you will. And that's exactly what that word submit means. It's not like get underneath me, you're less than me. No, this is God has made man and woman different. I believe that men are given more let's say responsibility, but it's our job. We're the head of the household. And so what this is saying is women are supposed to get behind men, not in a way of dishonor, in a way of honor, because the man is gonna battle first. We're gonna be the ones to fight for our family, and our wives are our biggest support. As you know, in military, uh, a one-man army is not going to succeed. Your wife is your support subject that is helping you in this war. And gentlemen, ladies, there is a battle for your marriage. There is a rabid addiction to porn. There is sexuality across all aspects of media, and there is a fight. The enemy is trying to get at your marriage. And so all that to be said, I just want to throw that out there, is that this word submit isn't a word of like, you're less than me, get behind me. This is all right, we're going into war, fall back. I got this, fall behind me. Right. So anyways, that's one thing. Another thing is, I'm surprised, you guys know I'm a translation snob. And I'm really happy to see that the NLT uses the word slaves in verse 22. Um, that word is the Greek word is doulos. And I think it's important for us to know, as you had said, slavery. We have this westernized last 200 years idea of slavery, which was wrong, which wasn't biblical. Of this, what happened to the African Americans in our country is disgusting, and I do not agree with any of it. However, in the Bible, slavery was different. It wasn't like what we as Americans in the 2025 think of as slavery. A lot of times, slaves were born into a role, like, and you it wasn't a dishonor to be a slave. That's what you were born to do, if you will. And you didn't, you know, it wasn't like the slave like we think, like there's a whip and a lash and, do a bunch of hard work for me. No, another word that some translate doulos is bond servant. You are serving that person. I like the word slave being used because I think it's a more accurate way to represent it. But we think of slaves, like I said, as what we know in the American history. But I think it's important for us to recognize that we are called to be a slave of Christ. And that's not a slave, again, that he's slave driving, whipping us. That is he is everything to us, and we will do as he has called us to do. So anywho, good stuff. We could dig into more of some of this, but yeah.
Man, great chapter. Great chapter. So
Yeah, absolutely.
You said you had something you did in the shop. What were you up to?
Well, it wasn't in the shop, but okay, I'm gonna send you a picture because it's much easier. And don't judge me for what I did. I used scraps and things that I had around the house. Let me get to.
Those are my favorite projects.
Right, didn't
use up
cost me.
scrap wood.
Didn't cost me anything. So, anyways, we have ducks, and ducks are stupid. There you go. So the porch on the duck coop, we put plastic on. Well, plastic, when the wind blows, scares the ducks. Sunday, between the time we got home from church and about 2:00, 2:30, the ducks flew out of their pen 4 times, and we had to chase them down to put them back in their pen because they were getting scared of the plastic flopping around. And so my wife was like, "We got to do something." I says, "I got some scrap plywood and stuff in the barn. I'll just screw that around the porch." So those 2 sides of the porch, the picture I sent you, Tom, or the direction the wind comes from. And so I just put plywood up, just anything I could get to cover it up. And now they're not afraid. And then the other side is open because the wind's not coming that way. But so I had to get out the old circular saw. I've got a cordless one, circular saw, and a straight edge and a tape measure and a Sharpie and screws and an impact driver. So I felt, and I had my tool belt. I felt like I was, I don't know, it felt good. And it was cold. It was like in 30 degrees. And so I was out there with my Carhartt on and the tool belt around my waist and a hat on and gloves. So yeah, that was what I worked on Sunday after church. I was going to rest. If I'm honest with you, I was going to just relax, maybe take a nap. And the ducks kept getting out, and finally, so we locked them in the coop, and I put all that stuff up. Then I let them back out, and but yeah, they didn't fly out again. So I think that plastic was just making the noise in the wind, and it was scaring them, and they were flying over, and yeah. So
well, all I've been doing is, I got the laser here, and I have space in my shop, but I don't have a space for it, if that makes sense. So I'm having to rearrange some stuff. I know where I'm putting it, but in order to put it, I've got to get the stuff out of that spot. And in order to get the stuff out of that spot, I've got to rearrange. So that's what I've been doing today. And
what? How are you going to pipe out the fume?
So what I'm going to do temporarily is, because I don't want to cut a hole in my building right now, because I'm going to add on 1,000 square foot to my shop as a home office, and I'm going to add a 20-foot section, 20 by 50 section off the side of my shop. That will be my office. It'll have a little small place for customers come in and me have samples of what I do. My desk. It'll have the laser, my vinyl plotter, and a large work table, and then eventually a 3D printer probably. But then place for me to store products that I make and have on hand and all the parts and stuff like that. But until I have the money to do that, I have two windows in my shop, and so I'm piping up ductwork right to the window, and I'm making basically a plate goes full width to the window that I'll have a dryer vent
with a hole in it.
Yep. And so whenever I use the laser, I'll pull the window up and then shut it down over that, pipe out the exhaust, and so it'll work perfectly fine.
Now, does that laser have a fume extractor on it, or do you have to put it? You don't have to put an inline blower on it.
It came with an inline blower.
Oh,
so,
nice.
Yeah. So I'll mount all that to the wall, and then I'm just going to take it'll be a very small section of flex pipe from where the hard piping goes to the adapter. And then that way I can just simply, when I'm not using the laser, have the window shut. And when I am, just quickly open it up, stick it in, shut it down. Kind of like air conditioner exhaust, the
that the ones
thing.
that are floor models,
yeah. So that same concept, and then so get the fumes out of the shop.
Where does that blow out to? That window, like, is the back of the house, front of the house? Where's that at?
Blows out the side of the shop.
The side of the shop. Okay.
Yeah, and it's way away. The house is on the opposite side of the shop, so
gotcha. It
literally is blowing toward a alfalfa field.
Oh, okay, good. That's what I was going to ask, if it's like going to tick neighbors off or something. If you're
the closest neighbors is 10 acres away, so nobody will ever smell it. So
good. No, that's awesome.
But
I had dust extraction for my laser at my last house, and this house, the only place I could put the laser, I don't have extraction, so it's just I've got exhaust going as far as like pulling out of the enclosure, but it's just going into the shop. So if I've got to do a bunch of laser engraving, I open the garage door and put the barn fan in the in the door.
And that's fine for in the summertime, but in the winter and it's 20 degrees outside.
Oh yeah, that's a no-go.
So I'm going to do this, and it'll work perfectly fine until I'm hoping that I'll be able to do that addition next spring. Is what I'm.
Oh yeah.
That's what I'm hoping. I don't know. I'm going to do it in phases. I'm going to get the concrete.
You're going to do it all yourself, or?
No, the concrete I'll have poured. I'm going to do the framing and everything else myself. But it still costs money for materials. The concrete will be expensive, but I'm hoping over winter to save up and pull the permit and get the concrete done first thing in the spring, and then just get it framed and roughed in,
little by little,
and then save up, do the inside. Hopefully within a year I can have that whole thing done, and then that will number one give me a much bigger office space, much better spot for cutting vinyl and everything else that I do. And it'll give me an office, a separate entrance for customers. Because right now they come to my front door, and so. I mean, but it's what I got to work with. So that will make a nice separate place where I can put a sign over there, and so yeah.
That's awesome, man. Speaking of farm things, my wife and I were discussing the other day, is this weekend, I think, about in the not next year, but probably 2027, getting a couple cows.
My plan is to get my pasture well established. You've already got that. You just need the fencing probably for the cattle.
Right.
But next year to get my pasture well established so that the next year I can add some cattle, maybe some sheep. I'm thinking of doing some lamb as well. So
Yeah, we've talked about it. I mean, we've got the land to do it. The
you're
only
crazy
thing
not to, dude. With that
well,
much land.
the only thing we don't have is like a shelter. Is a place for them to be. Now, I know most time cows don't need it
Yeah.
really.
That's too easy. You just build a little lean-to barn, kind of like people do for horses. A little,
Right.
yeah, yeah. If you got two
Well,
cows,
we've got one. So where I park my tractor and stuff, we call it a barn, but it's a big carport. It's like a 30 by 40 big carport.
oh yeah,
It's open on two sides, so it's just a big open thing.
yeah,
Um, I could try to section off part of that for a shelter for them, but the goal eventually, and this isn't going to be for a few years, is to build a shop on the property when we can pay cash to do it, and then turn that where the tractor parks at and that carport thing into a animal like a barn.
yeah. That'd be cool.
But yeah, but we bought last year. We bought beef from a lady I work with, and it was just so much better than
Oh
store
yeah,
bought stuff.
yeah. We
And
buy a half cow from our neighbor every year,
yeah,
and it lasts us all year long.
yeah, and so we've discussed, what would it look like to get a couple cow, and then we could split it like my brother-in-law and
Yep,
my in-laws and stuff, and split the beef
yep. It'll
with
save you
them.
a
So
fortune. Plus, you getting better meat.
oh, absolutely. So the biggest thing would be getting the fencing up, and we could do a fairly inexpensive fence. But cows, I tell you what, we had a cow farm, or our neighbor in Tennessee had cows. So our property was like 2 acres, and we had fence on 3 sides. So the road was open, and then there's fence around us, and the 2 sides were cow farm. And them cows were mischievous, man. They would get out of that fence, and
We have one of our neighbor's cows come wandering on our property, horses, all kind of stuff.
yeah. So, anyways, we'll see what that looks like. But all right, man. Well, I know you got stuff on the grill. I have to go finish that Bible. It's ready to be put together and put in the clamps. And
Yeah, send me a picture when you finish it. I'd like to see it.
oh yeah, absolutely. So, but until next week, I'm Will from Plywood Acres.
And I'm Tom from Mountain Valley Maker.